Easy Sports Talk Show. Javon Adams with the one and only Ed Easy Smith. We do this thing 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. We had a little bit of a in-season break last week because my man was out of town. I just don't feel right doing it when he's out of town, being a globetrotter and everything. And of course, that man is the one and only Ed Easy Smith. Played professional baseball, also played in the National Football League for that first Super Bowl bound team for the Atlanta Falcons. So what is good, my brother?
That was our bye week last week, man.
Yeah, good way to say it. There we go.
Early bye week. Yeah, so we're back at it.
Yeah, man. So I want you to share what you did last week. You were over in the state of Texas, and then so we'll get to that last. But man, sometimes you don't even need a run sheet when you want to talk about some things. It just feeds itself. And of course, you know me. I have so my tinfoil hat, or you know, I get a little bit controversial at times, but I want to talk about none other than 2 beatdowns that happened this week for different reasons. One, I want to talk about Colorado going against Oregon and coming up way short, and then also Denver Broncos getting lambasted against the Dolphins. So which one do you want to go with first? I'll let you decide which one we go with first.
Let's go with the college one. You know, that was, you know, it's funny. It's 2 different type of beatdowns.
Yeah.
The Colorado beatdown was a humbling. You know, they had been put on the pedestal. You know, everybody's running around. You know, Deion is the best coach in the history of college football, and he just all gets changed in the game. And you know, and then you got on the field with a team that was clearly more talented, bigger, faster, stronger.
Yes,
and they and also with an axe to grind too. That Oregon coach, they called it a little bit of that speech. Yeah. You know, they're here for clicks, we're here for wins, and we know the camera was on, and that does take away a little bit for me too, because it's like now they're playing to the camera, but it's in retaliation to everything that's been going on for the last month. So I can understand, you know, you're Oregon, you know, one of the top programs in the country, and all everybody can talk about is Colorado. You know, so after a while, it's like, okay, we're going to serve everybody. They got to the point, you know, up 35-0 on the goal line, got the 4th and goal. Instead of kicking the field goal, they were like, nah, we're going to lead the team out there. We want more. And before you knew it, it was 42-0. And quite honestly, I was sitting there and I was reveling in it to a certain degree. Okay. I'm not going to say, like I said, I love to root for my fellow brethren, right?
Right.
But to watch Deion on the sideline with the arms folded, glasses still on, you know, with that look like, you know, because here's the thing, there was nothing he could do. He couldn't go out there and make the plays. He couldn't go out there and do anything to save those young men from that embarrassment, even though to a certain degree he helped set them up for that embarrassment with all the, you know, the here we are and stuff like that. So it was my son at one point, he's like, Dad, you know, can't you turn this off? Because, you know, he's now taking on Colorado's team. I said to him, we got to watch the good with the bad, son. All this time, you know, these last few weeks, beating our chest, you know, Colorado. But I said, we got to, you know, because normally I would have turned the game like that off. It's not worth my watch. But that was worth my watch. You know, it was a humbling experience.
All right. I have made it known what my contention, my issue is with Deion. It's the HBCU thing. I come in here, everybody needs to show love to the HBCUs, and I'm here to do that. And then a couple of seasons later, he's out because now God has given him a new mission. I push back on that. I'll be honest and say I push back. So that's one issue that I have. Okay. But here's something that if what a coach is supposed to do. What a coach is supposed to do is be the eternal, he's always ABC, always be Cruton, right? Always be Cruton. So if you can get as much coverage for your team based upon either as you're trying to build a program to get those eyeballs and then raise the level of awareness, and then it goes attention, interest, desire, action. This is what I learned in marketing school, right? Attention, so it's the AIDA model. So attention, so Deion is doing a great job of getting attention to Colorado. Interest, people have interest because of the first couple of games, especially because everybody was thinking, me included, that it was going to be tough. Maybe you get a couple wins and then you try to continue to build from there. But I think because he was ahead of schedule, at least, and it'll balance out. It'll regress to the mean. Maybe instead of 3, maybe he'll get 5 wins. You got to figure out where that'll come. It'll probably come against one of those. Will probably be Arizona State. But and to get them to 4, and so maybe you'll find a 5th one in there somewhere. But I think that as the interest continues to rise, and then the desire for people to want to consume Deion because he is the eternal self-promoter, that's where I think the jealousy came in from other coaches saying, well, what about me? Well, I'm just over here in my office and I'm trying to draw up these plays and get these game plans. It doesn't mean that Deion's not doing it, but he's just good at just being he's that dude that walks into a networking thing and is shaking hands with everybody while somebody like me is off in the corner saying, I wish somebody would come up and ask me what my business is so I could tell them what I do so I can make sure to help to grow my business. That's where I think the jealousy comes from. And therefore, there's that. And then I think they're mixed in somewhere. You got to be able to, you and I go through the dog whistles and we can understand there's some racism going on in there as well about a brother trying to get himself to be so big and bombastic to all of a sudden try to lead a program, to revive a program that's been dormant, that's been dead for decades, right? So there's all that perfect storm. I want to see the brother succeed. I never expected him to go undefeated, but I never expected him to lose in this fashion. And that's where we talked about before, where I mentioned to you, if you lose a couple, because they're probably going to lose 2 in a row. You lose to USC, and they I would imagine they'll lose to USC, and then of course they just lost to Oregon. So then it becomes how deeply, how entrenched, or how much is that culture? How much have you been able to reach these young men that are in the program that can still help you to be able to recruit, whether it's the portal or whether it's just bringing on freshmen as you're recruiting from these high schools. So that's where it's an odd thing to me.
Well, you use some synonyms in there and describing, your take on Deion. It's all from different angles. You use the word jealousy. I would push back a little bit and say some of the coaches are like, hey, we appreciate you coming in here because you are bringing some light to our conference and these men. But it'd be more for me like slow your roll. Walk or crawl, walk, run. Deion comes in like on a dead sprint, like, here I am, give me my respect, and and I'm going to do this. And a lot of it is about, we all have to get in line sometime. I'm not saying, his personality, he's never going to get in line. So in saying that, you have to take what you give in return. You have to, if you're going to come kicking the door in, every now and then somebody's going to shut the door back on you and not close it lightly, but they're going to slam that son of a gun because of the way you come, beating it down. I give all props and respect to what Deion is doing. Like I said, I just don't like the way he goes about it. And for me, you're going to have to take those lumps. Like, when you win and all the chains are out and everybody's sitting on the throne on the sideline and all that kind of stuff. Same goes when all of a sudden now you're getting your head knocked in.
Yeah.
You got to take that. And for me, man, it was rough to watch because I never want to root against anybody in that fashion. But like I said, it was a good piece of humble pie to be eaten. The question will be, as you mentioned, they got another tough one coming up. Is he going to eat the pie and maybe come back to earth a little bit? Or is he still, we all know, Deion's going to be Deion. He's still going all the commercials and, and the self-promotion. That's the part I don't like the most. And I know he's out there to make $1, and some of these other coaches might be pissed off at that because he's on there. Everything you're watching the game, it's Aflac, it's Kentucky Fried Chicken now with the sun and all that kind of stuff. So I can, it irks me a little bit. And I was, like I said, I I was glad to see them brought back to earth a little bit, and then we'll see what happens from here. But my goodness, that was a beatdown of beatdowns right there.
It was.
They
I
you
can't
could
even deny that.
they did not they were not, their talent level was not equal to what Oregon has. And he'll probably someday get them there. The question though is, Jay, when he gets them there and somebody else comes a calling, how long is he going to stay to see the mission finish?
That's true.
You know?
That's true. That's true. What I will say is this again as well. If when you talk about confidence, when you have to have supreme confidence in yourself, and again, I walk the fine line because there are issues that I have with Deion and the way he approaches stuff, and there's also things that I admire. So I would imagine, like for example, that there were a lot of people that were saying to you when you were making that transition, and we talked about this briefly a couple weeks ago, the transition from baseball to football, to say, who are you to think that you can come in here and be able to, why don't you slow your roll? Why don't you just stay where you are at? And there had to be some that extreme belief in yourself, no matter what people said, whether you take some lumps along the way, whether you're ultimately not successful, but you're going to give yourself every chance and you are going to be supremely confident in your ability, if nothing else, to persevere and overcome the obstacles.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. The problem is Deion's the biggest self-promoter in the world.
True that.
He can't, who's ever told him what he could or couldn't do? And by right, he's done it all. He's proven his self-worth, or what he believes in himself. Yeah. God bless you. I just don't have to sit and watch you, toot your own horn and talk about how great you are and what you've accomplished and what you've done, especially when you really, if you think about it, you haven't gotten to any, you've gotten 3 wins, which is great, but you're not one of those elite programs yet. You might be heading in that direction, but you got a long way to go, Deion. And and like I said, that's why some of these other coaches, they're relishing in the fact that, when we get that opportunity, we're going to show you how we do it at this level. I wouldn't be surprised if some of the coaches are trading information. Okay, you got him next. Okay, this is what we saw and this is what we did. Because they keep in touch and hey, go get him, dog. And he's going. Oh man, I'm telling you,
there is a tipping point. There is a tipping point where it comes to where confidence becomes what? Arrogance. And it becomes arrogance out of control. It becomes hubris. It becomes all of those more extreme things. And Deion is in there. But I just think about if I come into a situation, if I'm going into something new, and I know that the odds are against me to be successful where I'm at, whether it's a company or whether it's an institution of higher learning, whatever that might be. I need to, if nothing else, I need to talk my, what is it? We sometimes
talk something into existence, or
whether you speak it into existence or you fake it till you make it, whatever term you want to use, you want to keep on pushing that way. Now, the thing is, now that you've lost, now you mentioned it before, so you've been humbled. So what is Deion going to do with that? How will they come back? Because I've heard during the course of that the 3-game winning streak that there were still issues with the defensive line. We saw them giving points up. They gave points up to TCU, gave points up to Colorado State, and we know they gave points up on the defensive side of the ball when it came to Oregon. So these are issues, and they've been able to overcome them. But now it's one of those things, you might be exposed now. So what do you do when you're exposed? How do you adjust, and how do you continue to have those people pulling all those young men pulling the rope in the same direction?
That's a great question. I don't think there's anything that's going to stop Colorado from being successful. And the problem though is, Jay, is what is the level of success? What are we expecting from it? If we're expecting this team to, we joked about it, but they went from projected being one of the worst teams in the history of college football. Then all of a sudden they jumped into the rankings. Yeah. So they went from 150 to up to as far as 19 in a matter of 3 weeks. Yeah. And then they just took this beating and boop, they're out of the top 25.
Out. It's going to take a lot of work for them to get back in too.
Yeah. So what are the expectations, and especially after what could happen against USC, but what are the expectations? What is considered success? In my opinion, he's already been successful, by getting, they won one game last year. He, in the first few weeks of the season, he got them to a ranked position, although we knew it was a
It was,
fugazi.
yeah, for
It was,
sure. It was
yeah,
inflated for sure.
yeah. So, say they end the year and they get 5-6 wins. That is, you've turned the program over and you got, a win ratio of plus 500%,
Yeah.
So that would be a success. But my problem is I hope that even Deion not lowers the expectations, but brings
Put
the
them in
the
proper
bravado.
perspective, maybe.
Put him in, great, thank you. Put it all in perspective. If he had, if he came in, Jay, and was like, "Look, we're here to compete, and we're going to do that," and just quietly, you and I have been going to church recently. I missed the last couple weeks. Obviously, I will be back in there, but we all know how God talks about humility, and that's a big thing. Sometimes, people don't. And you'll never hear me, and I know you don't do it as well. It's like braggadocious, man. Let my actions speak in place of my words.
Right.
And right now it's been the exact opposite. It's been all the words and the sunglasses, and they got the throne on the sideline. Everybody's wearing the big chain. I had to point out to Quentin the other day, watching Shadir, and he's got this huge chain on. I'm like, that's not even necessary during a football game. That's just showing off. There are certain things, like the way you carry yourself sometimes can speak volumes, So all the players out there, everybody's got the fancy chains on it. Who needs a chain? We saw somebody, who's my man, got his chain took out there on the field at one time. I mean, what was it? I can't even remember. It was a Raider.
I forget his name, but Talib Talib was the one that was chain snatching.
The chain snatching out there. But that's not even necessary. The professional level, do what you want to do. You make your mind. I would be just teaching these kids a little more humility than the braggadocious and everything like that. I'm not rooting it against the kids. I'm rooting against the stance of Deion, and how, like I said, just take a little more humble approach, and you'll probably have more fans like me, because I want to root for you, but I find it hard to root for that. And depending on how the rest of the season works out, they could be in for a even more of a rude awakening. So we'll see.
We shall see. We shall see. Easy Sports Talk Show, Javon Adams, Ed Smith. So let's get into another beatdown. The Dolphins against the Denver Broncos. Now, that was on the road. The Broncos were on the road, right?
Mm-hmm.
Man, they beat them down. What was it? 70-20. Now, we know that Russell Wilson has been much maligned, and for some good reason, but I think his personality is that type of guy. What did we hear about? I heard something over the weekend, maybe it was Sunday before the game, where one of the things that Russ will do is he'll get into the huddle and he'll try to give, in addition to calling the play, but he's also, all right, everybody, come on, we can do this. We can do this, y'all. I just need you to block. Go ahead and block. And so sometimes that, even if it's genuine, let's say if it's 70% genuine, that can still wear on you, right? And plus, with some of his, maybe he's not the same player that he was for probably a myriad of reasons. But you can't blame this on Russell Wilson when your defense gives up 70 points. Am I right? Am I wrong? Because Sean Payton was supposed to be the savior walking on water. I'm that dude, and this one loss doesn't mean that now he's doomed for failure. But I'm cautious about giving out my kudos to folks, and Sean Payton had to take some humble pie as well.
After this game, my mom called me and she was ranting, boy. She was just like, how the heck does that happen? And Sean, she was on the same side you are. She was, you can't put this on Russell Wilson. She said, Sean Payton, he's like getting a hall pass. I'm like, he sure is. And one of the things that he's getting a hall pass on, Jay, I saw players quit on the field. I saw players who didn't want to tackle, were letting the Miami Dolphins run around them, and you could I've almost never seen any. I don't know if I've ever seen anything that bad, and that's a reflection on the coach. You got players that quit on you. You know how hard it is to get 35 points in the league on a Sunday, Jay. To get 70, that means, and anybody who's watching the highlights, there were highlights when they were getting close to the sideline, and dudes would just pull up, and Miami was just like, really? You're not even going to try to tackle me? And go around him and score the touchdown. And then there were some issues. This was, if if there are some guys that don't have a job today, then something's wrong with Sean Payton. This loss was so bad, and I'm not rooting because somebody losing their jobs, but this is one of those ones where you show the film, and this film is going to be shown. We're going to go back probably 20 times on one play, and I'm picking out 5, maybe 6 guys loafing on the backside, not giving, and we're going back, and I'm showing everybody, and by the end of the day, those lockers should be cleaned out because that was an embarrassment. That was an embarrassment, Jay, to somebody to score 70, and the Dolphins were like, what the hell's going on out here? They're going to let us score again? And it was, oh my goodness. And that isn't a reflection on your head coach. You cannot, you can't embarrass yourself, but you can't embarrass me as a coach, what we practiced and worked on all week, and the hustle, the energy, and you're going to give me that? That was unbelievable. And Payton should take some serious smoke. Not on game plan. He should take some serious smoke on what's going on in your locker room. Very rarely can you question. This is one of those, coach, what's going on in your locker room where guys quit on you out there on the field yesterday? I heard part of his press conference, somebody was trying to ask him a question. He kept, what's the question? What's the question? I already answered that. Next question. I'm like, don't be mad at us. Because your team they didn't come to play, and you don't want to prepare them. Don't be bringing that smoke at me. Look at yourself. And then all this that he's been piling on Russel Wilson, and man, you can't walk away from this one.
Yeah, and so what's interesting as well. So I'm just gonna compare and contrast. So at the way in which the beatdown was administered, the post-game press conferences, right? So with the Dion, he's still being braggadocious and stuff, but he said, yeah, that's a butt whooping. That's we gonna do better. The coach is gonna do better, and so forth and so on. With Sean Payton, he was very, as you mentioned, he was very very terse with his responses and very super agitated to the point where different ways in which of talking about elevating a program, right? Dion comes in and he's I hear him say we a lot, even though it's Dion saying we what he gonna do, but it's Dion saying it. So I get what I'm saying here. But it's this program is gonna be great. And oftentimes when you hear Sean Payton talk, it's I am, and that I. So if you're talking about I in this way, your offense, you're this, you're that, then you gotta wear this. The players have to wear it as well, because you mentioned you can't go out there and quit on the field. But there's something. I wonder if it's a combination of, well, man, this game is out of control, and we don't believe that Russ will be able to at least keep us in the game offensively. In addition to, man, this coach, I don't necessarily buy into what he's preaching, and then it's all about self-preservation. So some maybe combination thereof.
I'm getting a sense from watching from the outside that a lot of the players are not on board with Payton. One, his attitude probably, he walks in, hey, I got a Super Bowl title. This is what I did in New Orleans. You all need to get on my train. Or, so a lot of players are looking at him and probably analyzing practices, his speech. As you mentioned, it's always this is what I did, and he's turning a bunch of those guys off. So then you get into a game and you start taking a beating like that. It's almost like your kids. What do they do, Jay? You're so mad at them. They've done something. You told them over and over and over again they've done something, and then they flip it on you, and they're like, well, I don't even care, whatever.
Yeah.
And that's what happened. Those guys were out there on the field like, I don't even care, and it just started piling on and on. Man. What was evident to me, you got to a point where the score was so outflated, and I was like, damn, they still got a quarter and a half to go. Man. And you could see the guys that already checked out, and then it was like nobody brought them together. In an instance like that, Jay, what I was expecting to see at some point, one of the players on the defense especially, the whole team needed to huddle and surround me, and I would have screamed every expletive there was, and I'd have been trying to rally. Look, we cannot do this. This is they were just like, they fumble the ball away, throw away. Miami's going all the way, scoring a touchdown. They were all just like, man, it's bad. Nobody, and that's that. I would ask, okay, Sean, where's your leadership, and where are your leaders on that team? Somebody needed to be throwing a chair up against a cooler or something. There should have been a table or something flipped over with that type. Somebody needed to show their displeasure with that, Jay. I've been there before when we've done it inside in the locker room when we playing that bad. And maybe, I don't know, maybe they went in there and they flipped over every Gatorade, cooler and all that kind of stuff and table and chair. But it obviously didn't work because they came out there with a big mess on the field in the second half. So, and that once again is a reflection on your coach. And man, that was a bad look. Bad.
Yeah, and I think here's what I think, and you talk about this often, is that somebody, a player or a coach, especially a coach, will say, look over here, I'm about to throw this player under the bus. Instead of you looking over here at me, I need you to throw this player under the bus. And you know who I think is going to be at some point in time in the next week or two? Russell Wilson. He will be the scapegoat. And I'm not saying he is without blame. Don't get me wrong, but there has to be accountability. But when you coming in thinking you the savior, there is no accountability. The accountability, I'm pointing at, what is it? When you point a finger at somebody, there's 4 more pointing back at you, 3 more pointing back at you, right? You have to take accountability, especially if you're supposed to be that leader in the locker room or for the organization and trying to bring us to the promised land once again that we feel is our birthright, so to speak, because they've won Super Bowls, what is it, three Super Bowls, whatever the case may be.
Mm-hmm. And once again, I look back at Sean and the way he feels, that had to be a tough flight back home, bro. I can't. That had to be a tough.
As you said, nobody better have been dancing in the aisle.
Put your headphones on, listen to some music, do whatever you do. If I hear anybody back there laughing, I mean, I'm as a head coach, I might have sent one of my,
a mole.
Go back and see what's going on back there. Because if I hear voices, if I hear laughter, I want you to write names down. Because I need to know, But at the same time, he's got to be looking at himself as well.
Yeah.
And there's a disconnect there. I don't know what it is. It's one thing to be 0-3. It's another thing to take a beating and give up 70 points in a game.
Yes, sir.
And I just don't know. I wonder if this can be fixed by this group, by him in the middle of the fire.
Yeah.
Sometimes it takes, like, if this was at the end of the season, it would be a situation like, whew, man, we finished it and it wasn't good, but we now have time to figure this out. We can scrub the roster. I can do some different things. This is game 3 of the season, bro. You got 14 of these more to go.
Yeah.
And it's hard to fix in the middle of the season. It's a hard thing to do, man.
I wonder if you think it's one thing if you're looking at something when you're on the outside looking in and saying, if I had that opportunity, I would do X, Y, and Z. And then you get I'm out of coaching. If this is what I do, the next opportunity I get, this is how I'm going to build a program, and this is what I'll do. And either you're just as inflexible as you were before, or you think that the way you did it before is going to work now. If you've been out for a season or two, whatever, things change. But then you get in, now you're on the inside, looking inside, and you say, oh, my bad. I didn't realize that it was going to be like this.
Well, you wonder whether Sean Payton might be second guessing even coming back and taking this job. Yeah. I don't know if this was the best one for him, and he might be regretting the fact that he took this on, and also the relationship with Russell Wilson. It's not an easy thing to fix, especially when you start throwing the finances in there.
Yeah,
if he's not your dude, you're going to have to be very creative in how you work something to get rid of him in that contract. After what teams are seeing now, who's going to want Russell Wilson on their team? Who's going to say that's our franchise guy? Another year older, looks like his skills are diminishing. Off field, you're not sure what's going on, where his head's at. And so how do you escape this contract or break this marriage up? This is one of those, what this reminds you of, Jay? It's the Royals over there in England. Yeah, they're married and they hate each other, but you can't break them up because that's, we don't do divorce in the royal family. So we got to figure out somehow to make this work. And this might just be one of those that you can't fix it regardless of what you do. You got an arrogant Sean Payton over here. You got Russell Wilson who thinks
might be obstinate Russell Wilson.
Well, he thinks he poops roses, So, I mean, and that forever optimism, two different characters. And like I said, they're going to have to figure out how to work together. And once again, it comes back to the two of them. You can't put all the blame on either, but both of them have their fair share of it. But golly,
Yeah.
that looked bad.
Indeed, indeed. So Easy Sports Talk Show. So leave me with this. Last week you were out in Dallas. What was it like? What did you do? Did you have a good time? Was it productive for you?
Yes, sir. I had a great time over in Dallas. I was at an event where I spoke a couple times with a great group of people. Met Mike Singletary was there. I had a chance to talk to him, which reminds me, I'm going to try to have him on our show upcoming here. Just an all around, I got to go to the game on Sunday, watch Dallas beat up on the Jets. They looked like the best team in the world at that time. Obviously, they came over and did laid an egg, but just an all out great week. They took care of me in terms of my back, because I have these issues that are once again rolling around, but they got me where I needed to be. Great, like I said, this outstanding group of people, and a lot of great information and insight. I found out about how AI is on us, man. We are,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
it's all kind of different topics that were broached or breached. And, I also was able to tell people a little bit about myself and what you and I do. And, hoping to use some of those content, not use, but incorporate, leverage, it's a better word, leverage some of those contacts to help us do what we do here even better.
Feel good to be back on the in terms of public speaking, being in that arena, because I know you spoke a couple different times. How does that feel? Because I know what it feels like when I'm performing, when I hit the stage, which I do a little bit infrequently now. But when I do, the first half of the first song is a little bit okay. Then by the end of that song, oh yeah, the juices are really flowing, and I really feel good, and the adrenaline's up there. How does that feel for you?
It felt great, man. And one of the things I love being able to get my message out, not necessarily talk about myself, but engage. And I love when it's well received, and it was well received. The people, they love my story, but I was able to make some, deeper contacts and just, talking about myself. And that was, it is fun. And I got to give you props too, man. The focus, you've been doing your thing. You sent me something the other day that I was able to listen to.
Oh, right on, man.
We need to promote you even more than me sometimes, because like I said, you're out there doing your thing, and whether it's for the show or for this show specifically or our radio show, the focus, man, the last one that you spoke on was absolutely great, and people need to hear more about what you're doing as well.
I appreciate that, man. I appreciate it, my brother. So we do this again 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Make sure you tell a friend and tell a friend. EZSportsTalk.com. That's EZSportsTalk.com. You can find everything. Of course, we do the Believe in the Arizona Cardinals podcast as well. That new one is up now. We do the radio show, the Easy Sports Talk radio show, which is on every Saturday from 1 to 3 Eastern. Make sure you can go to sportsmapradio.com, click the little play button in the upper right corner, or download the app for either Android or Apple device. And then, of course, again, we do this 3 times a week. And so make sure you tell a friend about what we got going on. So until Wednesday, as we always like to say around this time, you can